Okay, it's 5 o'clock on this Monday, April 4th, and
To call it out.
my glasses here. Call the Goldsboro City Council work session meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Mayor Ham,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Aycock, sorry, I did that wrong. Councilmember Broadway,
Here. Hey, I look better than him.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Present.
Councilmember Matthews,
Present.
Councilmember Gaylor,
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here.
Okay, everyone's here. We'll move next to the adoption of the agenda. Anyone having an item they'd like to add to the agenda, please speak.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to add the sponsorship of Dillard alumni to the agenda.
When you say, okay, I got it. Sponsorship of Dillard alumni. Okay, that's item. Do we have anything else?
Yes, I would like to add the Reentry Month proclamation to the, would we add that to the ceremonial documents?
We can add it to the presentations.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move item F on the consent agenda to items that require individual action.
That's the zone in 322.
Yep,
Move it to individual requiring individual action, okay?
yes.
Anything else?
Mayor, if we could remove item H.
Okay,
Been
remove
requested for-
item H.
Remove it completely or
Yeah, remove it and then we'll reattack at a later date.
Okay, let me catch up here. Okay,
And Mr. Mayor, also I'd like to have item E, added to individual action. Once I hear the presentation, I have a better decision on that.
item E.
Yes, sir, to items require individual action.
Okay, let's see. E and F.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, there being no other items to add or amend to the agenda, because we have Councilwoman Jones is not here. She's remotely. We have to do everything tonight by roll call. So at this time, I have a motion to accept the consent agenda with the changes and the additions of the sponsorship of Dillard High School, the reentry month proclamation, and moving items Z222 and Z322 to the individual actions requiring individual action. Motion to adopt.
Mr. Mayor, it's Dillard alumni, the Dillard alumni,
Okay,
not
I'm
high
sorry.
school.
Alumni, okay, got it. Alumni. Okay, we'll have a motion to accept the agenda with the changes.
So moved.
Second.
Mason's made. Is there a second?
I just made it.
Motion's made and second. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
please state your name.
Hiawatha Jones, yes.
Thank you. Councilman Broadway,
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Okay. At this time, we'll go into old business, and the first thing, I've got two on the old business tonight, and so first thing we'll talk about is non-appropriated fund. So, I would propose that based on the fact that our finance director, our manager, and parties that are working on the budget do not have a sufficient information at this time to determine what might be available for us to allocate to nonprofits, that we defer the actual dollar figure to a later time, but tonight we address the process of how we're going to do it. In the last meeting, we discussed the option of providing the monies to an outside organization and letting them distribute the money after they vetted the applicants for that money. I gather from the discussion that that was acceptable by the majority of the council. If I'm speaking wrong, let me know. So in lieu of that, I'm going to propose another option, and this is just my proposal. We can discuss it. Each of you have an opportunity to propose your own option, but I propose that we form a vetting committee, and that the committee be made up of one representative from each district, as well as the mayor having one appointment. They in turn would develop the criteria for vetting and awarding the monies to the applicants, and they also would, based on us, the council and the city, providing the total dollar figure, they in turn would allocate the funds for that. Now, that's my position. I'll let you speak to your own ideas and so forth.
If I may begin, Mayor, I think that's a good idea. A lot of us are boots on the ground with a lot of these organizations, whereas a proposal for another organization to allocate funding, I didn't agree with that at all. I've heard a lot of the constituents state that they're now supportive of certain non-profit organizations, but I think we have a duty as council members to represent our district, and our choice and our vote should represent or further echo their voices in making decisions. So I think that's good that we have representation from each district, as well as yourself to vet. Like I said, there's some organizations that I work closely with, some I haven't worked with, but I think that we could be a more sound voice for making a good, conscious decision on where monies go. And that's all I have.
Yes, sir.
I would.
Mayor,
Ms. Jones, go ahead.
I was just gonna go on and make a motion, but, Mr. Gaylor?
You're making a motion?
I was gonna move that we develop a committee with representation of each district to vet the nonprofits.
Second.
So the motion's been made, a second, to establish a committee represented by districts and one by the mayor appointee to manage the process of vetting the applicants and determining the allocations of eventual funding. Did I speak correctly? Councilwoman Jones?
Yes. All right. I couldn't hear you that well, but it sounded like you did. I move that we develop a committee with representation of each district to vet the nonprofit organization. That was my motion.
Councilman Gaylor?
Ms. Jones, just to clarify, and then one person to represent the mayor as well, that would be the at-large?
Right.
Yes. I second that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion made and second to establish a committee to formulate a plan of vetting, to vet applicants and eventually determine the funding to those applicants at a later time. when that money is, the funds are known to us. We have a motion made and second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I completely disagree with that process. And to be clear, I'm always looking for avenues to to plug in District 4 residents to participate in decisions that are made by the city. However, this decision needs to remain with the city council members. I think we should do our own personal vetting. Again, we're taking the responsibility and putting it on someone else. And we were the ones that were elected to be non-biased decision makers. So I think that we strongly need to consider that. And then there's so many questions that I have based on this committee. This is another committee that we're trying to create. What are their real roles and responsibilities? They're going to be the decision makers and allocating, and who's to say they've even heard of these organizations? If that's the case, I'd rather give it to someone who does this full time, United Way. If we're gonna choose a vetting committee, why not choose an organization that already does it? And I'm opposed to that too. But I think that we need to, just 1 minute, Councilwoman Jones. I think that we should strongly reconsider and us taking full responsibility of this. My fear is that those organizations who are fairly new, who are the ones are gonna be overlooked because they're not popular names, they're not ran by particular people, and I just don't think it's gonna be fair if we don't maintain control of that process. And I'm not trying to say anything offensively, I just think it should maintain our responsibility to allocate those funds for our nonprofits.
Okay, maybe my motion was not clear. I spoke last week that we as city council should do this.
Right.
So when I say representative from each district, I am talking about us.
Right, that's why I was confused.
But that is not what was just that is not what was just discussed. So we need some clarity, because I'm hearing two different things.
Okay, that when I spoke last week, I talked about how important it was for us to know these nonprofits. So when I say representative, maybe I didn't make it clear enough. Maybe I should have said each council person.
Yeah, that's the understanding I got.
Just now?
Yeah, so my understanding, so just for clarity, Miss Jones, I was the one that, you might have thought I was Mr. Gaylor, but I was the one that said that, I felt that we as council members should have a voice in the representation of our constituents. Was that your understanding of what I said?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's what I said last week
thinking,
as well.
Right.
So I didn't hear Mr. Gaylor say that, but that's what I said last week, that it was very important that we get to know these people. So when I said representation, maybe I needed to have made it a little clear, and I apologize for that, but I meant that representation from the council,
Right.
each one of us
Right.
would do
That's
that.
what I thought she was saying.
I don't think
Yeah.
the board understood it that way, Councilwoman Jones. Thank you for clarity.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
gonna be us, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be us.
So we're not picking.
Right.
We're not picking someone from our districts, one person, because he.
No.
No, we're the
It's
we're the
gonna be us.
representative.
But the mayor said that he would have, the motion was even the mayor would have an appointment. He would get to appoint someone. So we need to be
Right.
clear
Okay.
on what's being
Now, I was thinking
said.
it was for us as our representation.
That wasn't how it was
Okay.
understood.
Okay,
Councilwoman Jones,
thank-
do you mind doing your motion again?
Okay, yeah. I move that we develop a committee consisting of each city council person, representative of each city council person, to vet the NPO.
So let me clarify one thing, or let me ask you to clarify. You are saying a representative of each district. Did you say
When
that
I,
correct?
okay, what I need to say is each council person. Would that be better?
Then the board
Because
basically
we
is
are,
meeting, the
okay,
council's meeting.
Taj is representing his district. I'm representing my district. That's what I'm saying.
essentially,
Is
as
that
I
hard?
understand
Am I
it,
not getting across?
Maybe you wanna have a board meet and review the nonprofit organizations at the next council meeting, or a separate meeting, you have a special meeting to review nonprofits. I don't know how much time you wanna take during a regular session or a working session to review all these nonprofits.
so let me be clear about
Just
this.
remember that if you have 4 more together, then it's subject to open meetings. So you
Say-
can't, if you have 4 more of you guys together, then it's subject to the open meetings law.
Right.
So y'all can't meet over here in the room on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock before
Correct.
we talk about the nonprofits. So you just
Well, that's
you have
how
a regular
I-
meeting to discuss it.
That's
you
how
have to
I
do it.
feel that we should do it. I don't want to do anything that is against the parliamentarian procedure, but I think all of us as city council persons should vet the MPO.
Okay. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically saying that the committee would be formed of the council members.
Yes,
And
The last one I
we wouldn't be
said-
forming a committee per se because we're already a committee, or so to speak.
Right.
So what you're basically saying is we retain the decision, or not retain, but we will determine and vet the applicants and then determine how much money they are going to be receiving. Is that correct?
yes, that's what I want to do, yes.
Okay. And is that the motion you're making?
Yes, if it is clear that I want us as city council persons to vet the MPOs, if that is clear, then yes.
Let me, okay, I'll wait for the discussion. That's the motion you're making.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, is discussion. I have a comment.
My understanding is then we just have another council meeting, or a call council meeting, and have these people present. Is that the understanding?
However you want to do it.
I mean, I don't know some of these things. I know some of them very, very well.
That's the
I don't know
purpose.
some of the others.
Right. That's why we,
I have no idea.
That's the purpose. That's why we need to do it.
They can present and tell us what they do, how long they've done,
Right.
how many people they have working, and who they work in affiliation with. Otherwise, we're just throwing money against the wind.
Right.
And we're playing with taxpayer money. And a lot of these are pop-ups, any way you call it. And we need to know something about them. And that's all, that's just my point.
So my
And
comment.
That's the reason why I think we should be real
So
careful.
my comment to this motion is that if we do this, and I think you've alluded to it already, is that we're going to have a special meeting, because this is not going to be necessarily a 30-minute process. This is going to take quite a bit of time for us to properly do it. So, and I'm not opposed to that, by the way. I'm just saying be prepared for a special call meeting for this purpose.
Before we move on, I want to kind of clarify. A lot of these organizations, whether you know them or not, or any of us know them or not, a lot of them are not pop-ups. But because we made the decision to make this funding open to the public versus only limited to a particular group of people, now these organizations are coming asking for funding. So they're not pop-ups. A lot of them have been in existence for a very long time. I just want to make that clear.
Well, that's what we need to know. We need to know what they've been doing and how long they've been in business. We need to know that.
Okay. We have a motion.
Can we get clarification on exactly what the motion is? I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it's really unnecessary to have them, except for the fact that y'all are gonna vet the NPOs. You already have the authority to make that decision anyway.
Right.
And so just, again, you're gonna have to have a special meeting, and they've advertised a special meeting so the public can attend, that meeting. So,
Okay.
just wanna make sure y'all clarify that it's gonna still be another meeting of the council.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Do we even need a motion?
No.
No.
So we don't need a motion
You
to.
don't need a motion, it's got
Okay,
one, so
so-
somebody's gotta withdraw it. or-
so-
Do we not need some type of documentation to prove that we will be doing it?
This is enough, it's in the minutes.
Yeah,
Okay,
So you just call a special meeting on the subject. If
Okay.
there's some kind of guidance we could get on how you want to evaluate the nonprofits, or, I don't know, we could talk to United Way,
Yeah.
any organization that does this is, what, I'm just trying to be helpful here. When you review all these people, they come, they do their presentation. Is there any,
well, I think that we need to, amongst ourselves, come up with a criteria of selection. Not just say we're gonna have a meeting, invite people, come in and talk. We need to have an established criteria, by which we select and qualify the individuals or organizations that speak for those organizations. So, we will not have a motion to form any organization because we're already our organization. The only thing we have to do is establish a meeting time. And I'm not prepared at this moment to talk about one. Any of you may speak to it.
There's really no point in us having that meeting until we know the financial situation that we're working with.
I agree.
So I would certainly push it until we have that. But, Madam Clerk, forgive me for not knowing this off the top of my head, how much notice goes to the public?
48 hours.
Just 48 hours, so you've got plenty of opportunity. And anyone that would be needing to come to present, rightfully so, we would need to give them more time than 48 hours, but.
And I go back again, before we have that meeting, we need to have established process of selection adopted or accepted by at least the majority, hopefully a consensus of the council.
So when you say that, are you saying like a criteria that they need to meet before they come and speak to us, or the criteria in which we're gonna fund them afterwards?
The criteria which we're going to fund.
Okay.
I mean, we've already established some criteria based on
With the
this
process.
document here that we've
Right.
asked for certain, but there are some other things that are not on here that I think we need to talk about. So we'll come up with unless someone wants to make a recommendation on a date, but let me sort of start the process, not tonight, but offline, of gathering, and you can gather some information you want to, but let's formulate the process of qualification, if you will, before we have that meeting and bring people in. Any objections to that? Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Mayor, still need to have somebody withdraw the motion. You've got a motion on the floor.
Okay.
You've got a second. Still out there.
Councilwoman Jones, could you withdraw the motion?
yes, I will. I withdraw it.
Okay,
State your name,
thank you.
please.
I,
Okay.
Wanda Jones, withdraws the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item that's on the agenda is the GWTA board vacancy discussion. Well, in fact, board members, there is no vacancy. Let me just make sure everybody's clear and tell you what the situation is. The city has 3 appointments to the board. Those appointments are for 6 years. Their term is for 6 years, but they're 1-year appointments. So it just means that a board member cannot stay on the commission more than 6 years consecutive appointments, if I've made that clear. Now, who is and what is their term? Ms. Jones came on board on the April 5th of 2021. So she's got until 2028. No, it's 27, excuse me, 27. Ms. Carter came on December 19, 2016, so her time goes through December of this year. Mr. Aycock came on March 16, 2020. So his time would expire. But they still have to be appointed. We did not reappoint them this year. So I would ask for us to appoint them at this time, or a motion to appoint them.
Second.
You need a first, right?
Wait a minute. Did
Mayor, you were asking?
You made the motion, didn't you?
Okay.
I asked that, okay, if you want to take my comment as a motion,
I
okay.
took it as a motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and second. Any discussion?
No, Mayor, somebody else needs to make the motion.
You want me to make the motion?
No, sir,
You can't.
someone else needs to make the motion.
Okay, that's what I
I make
think.
a motion that we,
That's what I thought I was asking for, is a motion. Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we reappoint those members.
I did not, I can, what are you saying? What motion are you making?
Hold on a second.
She couldn't hear. I could barely hear, so maybe we need to talk closer into our microphone.
Talk closer. Hey, make a motion that Ms. Carter, who were the others?
Ms. Carter, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Aycock.
Carter, Jones, and,
Aycock.
you know. I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Carter, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Aycock back to their December timeframe for their
Reappoint them for this.
appointment, that we reappoint to those timeframes.
second.
We have a motion and second to reappoint Ms. Jones, Ms. Carter, and Mr. Aycock to a term beginning retroactive to January 1st.
That was, he said something about the timeframes in the motion. So
Well, I should have said
clarify
December
the
the
motion.
1st. I'll change that to December the 1st.
Is it December or is it January?
December.
Ms. Simpson Carter's appointment was originally December, well, actually, the latest one was January 21st.
I'll say we
And
need,
her original was 12/19/16.
do we need to do it individually? The dates?
I think you can do Ms. Jones and Mr. Aycock for a year, starting today,
Okay.
or tomorrow. And then, one for Ms. Simpson Carter, since her term will expire, her term should expire in December.
Her
Is that-
6 years will be up in December, so
Okay.
you'll just need to reappoint her through the end of her term,
Okay. You want to,
because that 6 years will be up.
Then
Yeah.
Do we need to include a
Okay,
specific
well,
date?
I would include specific dates.
We need to put a specific date with each person's.
Would it be easier
renewal.
to just do two separate motions? Let's,
Yes, do two separate.
I'm sorry, did
Well,
you
I
say that we
move
need a
that
separate
we
motion?
appoint Ms. Simpson Carter to the end of her term.
okay.
Second.
What date is that?
Okay, motion's been made and second. Any discussion?
I have a brief comment. So just a question. I think we should at some point establish when our employees or council members leave, because a particular council member, when they left, they were terminated immediately from every board they was a part of. We should have that same stipulation for our employees, because normally what happens when you want to be a part of a board, you do an application, right? Is that a yes? Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
What's happened is, based on an appointment of a city employee, that application process has been foregone. So this person is being appointed to this board under the umbrella of being a city employee, and they're not following normal protocol to be a member of our boards and commissions. We have to establish that and stick to it, because it's not fair for that to continue to be going on. And I've brought this up before this board last year. And it's not fair, and we have to make that same accommodation for everyone else. So we need to set a standard, and it needs to be in place, and it needs to be written somewhere. And I can work on that wording if you would like me to, so that we don't go through this process
I
again.
don't have any problem with that. That's a good idea.
Well-
That's a good idea.
Well, not only does WGA, if we appoint people, they don't have to be a board member or a city
Right.
employee. They can be private citizens and still serve on the board.
Yeah, but we're talking about our particular situation right now, so there's that.
Now, Ms. Carter's chairman until the end of the year.
I understand that as well.
Well, we talked about this and we said that we would keep her on until her term was out, which is December. Am I not correct?
December
We
19th.
already talked about this one time and we said that that's what we would do.
Okay, so can I rephrase your motion, Ms. Jones, and say a motion to appoint Ms. Carter to the GWTA board through December 19, 2022?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right,
you can restate that.
all right. And that was the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of appointing Ms. Carter to the board of GWTA through December 19, 2022, raise your hand.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, excuse me, roll call.
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes,
Councilman Broadway.
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews.
No.
Councilwoman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is made and carried. Is there a motion to appoint Councilman Aycock and Councilwoman Jones to a term beginning tomorrow, April 5th through December 31st of 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Roll call.
I'm sorry.
Mayor
Roll
Ham,
call.
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
yes.
Can you state your name, please?
Councilwoman Jones, yes.
Thank you. Councilman Broadway.
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews.
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is made and carried. And I got a big note here in front of me that says votes will be by roll call. So, okay, at this time, we'll move to new business and we'll be talking about non-resident fees and,
Mayor,
oh, sorry.
yeah, Councilmember Aycock's term on GWTA needed to be addressed as well.
Yeah, I called his name.
I thought you just said Jones and the last one was only one.
I
Jones
thought I
and
said-
Aycock.
No, you did. Did it say
I said
both?
Aycock and Jones.
Y'all got me confused up here, I apologize.
Okay, Ms. Brown. Come on down.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Talk with you about our Parks Recreation Program fees. Let's see. Okay. So first, I want to give you all a little background information as far as how our Parks Recreation fees are. As you see from the slide, the collection of user fees for our programs and using our recreational facilities is an accepted practice not only within our Parks Recreation Department, but other Parks Recreation Departments across the state and the world. And it is an important source of revenue for the city of Goldsboro. Back in June of 2002, that is not a typo, June 17th, 2002, City Council at their meeting voted to end the distinction between resident and non-resident fees and go to one universal fee. And that's what we've been charging since then. However, our program numbers have greatly increased since then, and we're still charging the one fee. We're not making that distinction between residents and non-residents. one of the bullets I wanted to point out was the population for the city of Goldsboro. So U.S. Census 2010 is showing our population as 437. In 2015, when you Google the population, it's showing it's 35,592. And from the last few council meetings talking about redistricting and what the 2020 U.S. Census was, 34,250. So as you see, our population for the city of Goldsboro, it has been decreasing, but our participation numbers, particularly with youth sports, has been increasing. So just something I wanted to put out there for council tonight, something for you all to think about, is should we charge a different fee for non-residents? It's not. Okay, there we go. All right. So one of the things I did was I just took a snapshot of one of the youth programs that we offer, and that's our Youth Soccer League. Now, we do offer youth soccer twice a year. We offer a fall youth soccer league as well as a spring youth soccer league. And I started with spring of 2019 for a specific reason. As you see at the top of the slide, youth soccer seasons at Bryan Multisports Complex. We opened our Bryan Multisports Complex late spring, early summer of 2018. And since then, our numbers, particularly for youth soccer, have just exploded. As you see from the slide, in spring of 2019, we had 611 participants registered, and this is just youth soccer. Fall of 2019, we had 643. Spring of 2020, we had 702. I started that because that's when COVID hit. We did not have a soccer season, so we ended up, either deferring that money to another activity, or for the most part, giving participants their refunds back. And then, of course, fall 2020, we did not have a soccer season. We didn't do registration. Fast forward to last year, spring of 2021, first year doing sports, back from COVID, we have 593 participants. Fall of 2021, 627 participants. Here we are now, spring 2022, 848 participants. And like I said, this is just a snapshot I wanted to show you all for one of our sports, which again, because of our Bryan Multisports Complex, and we've had participants tell us this, they like playing at one location. They like knowing that this is where the game is going to be held. And we have a great facility. I mean, I'm smiling about this. I mean, we have a great facility, and we have people wanting to come out and participate in our sports at that facility as well as our others. So then I want to give you a background on, went the wrong way. Okay, it's like a little pause with a clicker. Next thing I want to talk about are fees and charges by other Parks and Recreation departments. And one of the things I wanted to point out is, first, are other departments charging different fees? Resident, non-resident, and if so, what are they? So, looking at area departments close to us, Wilson Parks and Recreation. And again, I am just pointing out youth sports, youth program fees. Because then if you're looking at the whole, should we charge different fees? Do we want to look at rentals? Do we want to look at adult programs? Do we want to look at programs in general, like exercise classes? That's why I say I'm just bringing this to y'all tonight to be thinking about it, considering it. And again, I'm just using youth programs as that snapshot. So with Wilson Parks Recreation, their youth program fees, they charge $35 for a resident, $52 for a non-resident. Wake Forest Parks Recreation Cultural Resources for their youth sports fees, they're one of the higher ones. $60 for a resident, $100 for non-residents. Greenville Recreation and Parks youth sports fees, it varies, but it's usually $10 more for non-residents. Raleigh Parks Recreation and Cultural Resources, their youth sports fees, is $40 to $55 for resident, and depending upon the sport, and it's $15 more for non-resident. So as an example, you sign up for youth cheerleading, you're paying the higher end $55 to sign up for youth cheerleading. And if you are a non-resident, you're actually paying $70 instead of $55. Have some more departments. Clayton Parks Recreation, their youth sports fees, $30 to $40 for a resident and $60 to $80 for non-resident. Meaning, if you're a resident and it's a $40 fee, if you're a non-resident, it's an $80 fee. Clinton Parks Recreation youth sports fees, again, theirs vary, but it's $10 more for non-residents. Mount Olive Parks Recreation youth sports fees, they charge $30 per participant, a universal fee. We, Goldsboro Parks Recreation and Mount Olive, are the only two Parks Recreation departments in Wayne County. Our department, Goldsboro Parks Recreation, by far is a much larger department. Mount Olive, they have 2 to 3 people, but they do charge a universal fee. And Kinston-Lenoir County Parks Recreation youth sports fees, they charge 1 universal fee. But also with Kinston-Lenoir County Parks Recreation, if you notice their name, Lenoir County gives them a recreation supplement. Speaking with our finance director, Catherine, who used to work there, she shared with me the county was giving the Parks Recreation Department several hundred thousands of dollars a year to help offset the cost, because they, like us, Goldsboro Parks Recreation, we are essentially programming for the county. Because anybody who wants to participate, we let them participate. But again, in Kinston-Lenoir County, they do get a supplement from the county. So again, fairly quick presentation. Just wanted to put it out there and some things for you all to consider. And as I was mentioning earlier, I'm just using youth sports as the snapshot, as the example, but these are things to consider. And I was speaking with some of my staff beforehand, and I was like, well, essentially, I'm just putting out there for y'all, council, to consider. And you got 3 options. Leave things as they are. Go with look at charging a resident, non-resident fee, or do we want to go down that path of getting with the county, which that would be probably city manager and you all, not me, getting with the county to see, if they are going to ante up, so to speak, and help us offset our costs. If we are looking to do a non-resident fee, one thing I would suggest, what I am seeing other departments doing, I showed you what the resident, non-resident fee was. But what other departments are doing, so for instance, Wake Forest, you want to play youth soccer, it's $100. But if you could prove to us you're a resident, you only pay $60. My suggestion, if we are going to be doing a non-resident fee, to go that route. Kind of like when you go to the grocery store, you have your little, MVP perk Vic card where you see the price on the shelf, but if you have that card, you get a discount. And that way, it's on the participant to show us that they're a resident, whether it's property tax, water bill, whatever, and then we have them in the system. That's if we are looking to go down that route. But again, I'm just putting it out there, for consideration.
And when I looked at that, I thought that was a great idea, because even from a county standpoint, us in the city pay city and county taxes. However, people from the county can benefit from the amenities of not paying the double that we do. I played soccer, and I'm quite sure when I was at St. Mary's, all of our events were on the base. But now that we have the Bryan Multi-Sports Complex, I'm quite sure that we'll get that, and I don't think people will shy away from paying the extra whatever we determine the cost would be. But I think that's a great way to, and not only does it make people that live in the city limits feel that they have some type of a privilege, but also the people that come in will benefit and contribute to our economics as well.
Right,
so.
and that's also one of the things that you all saw. It's not a set fee that other departments charge. It's not $10 more, $15 more is what, we all decided would be, which is why I just want to show you all, the range is as low as $10 and then it's as high as $40, $50 more.
How much difference do you think that will make, Felicia?
Just with our youth sports in general, and again, if we're just looking at youth sports, I'll say rough estimate, we should be bringing in at least 15 to 20,000 more, and that's if we just do the $10 more. When I was putting the slide together, I was kind of going back and forth. Do I want to put, you know, the example of $10 more, $15 more? So the more, you know, we charge that non-resident, the more potential revenue that we would bring in, just realizing at a certain point, you know, we would lose people. So I'm not suggesting if we charge $45 for a resident to charge $90 for a non-resident. So that would be, youth soccer is now $90, but if you can prove you're a resident, $45. I'm not suggesting we do that high of a leap.
So what is our fee, our across-the-board fee for youth sports?
$45.
45.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there any accommodation right now for folks that cannot afford to pay?
Yes, so we have it on our website as well as our literature that we produce. We have a statement in there that we do not believe in denying any child the right to participate in youth sports due to they're not being able to pay. So if we run into that situation, we ask that parent or family to contact me, and so we sit down, because there have been cases where if the fee's $45, they could pay $10. Or they could pay $20. They just can't pay the entire fee. And so, like I said, we have that. We, acknowledge that. We share it in our literature, but I don't go around telling people, come see me if you can't pay, because just for that that dignity piece.
But the important thing is that we're not sending any child away.
Correct.
From learning to play sports and
Correct.
getting that. So that's what's important to me.
So you're also saying that we don't have to raise the rates at all.
I mean, that's an option for you all.
We could call on the county and present what Lenoir County does, which I think would be a great opportunity where we don't have to put that burden on the residents again. We can see if the county would be willing to help supplement some of that cost.
Right, and to go with what you're saying, so particularly when COVID hit, as a lot of you are on like weekly Zoom calls, I'm on a weekly Zoom call with Parks Recreation directors from across the state. And I actually brought up this discussion last week when we were just talking about different things. And what was shared, which is what I thought was the case, but it was confirmed, is a lot of times in situations where it's the city providing the recreation services and there is not a county Parks Recreation department. If the city is not charging a non-resident fee, usually it's because the county is supplementing that. Right. And one reason I was having a conversation with Catherine is, okay, before I go do this presentation to council, let me make sure I'm not missing something. Are we getting any type of recreational supplement, from the county? I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. And she said, no, we're not getting anything. So
do we know anything from that June 2002 meeting, what the logic was at that point?
I pulled up the meeting minutes, and what was in the meeting minutes was it was getting to the point where the staff was presenting it to the city that this is what the two fees are, and we're suggesting we just go to one fee just to make it easier for everyone. That's kind of like the gist of what the meeting was. And again, at that time, it was across the board as far as swim fees, rental fees, youth program fees, things of that nature. I know I've shared with a couple of you, I wasn't here during that time, but several people have said, well, this is why it was done, but I haven't been able to find that confirmation in the meeting minutes as far as why it was brought up, why we went away from the two different fees.
I can tell you in the past, I have talked to some county commissioners, and that's like getting blood out of a turnip, but they said, well, we've supplied the public education, y'all do the Parks and Rec. I said, yeah, but we pay city taxes to have that Parks and Rec, as well as the county taxes. Does that make a difference to them? No. I mean, like I said, it'd be tough. I think we ought to go in and address it with the county manager, and
because, not cutting you off, but that's a dilemma even with the Patrick Best track. Mm-hmm. They're pushing it off, saying it's us, and then vice versa with the school system, and meanwhile people are tripping and breaking ankles with patch job track. You know, so I think, like you said, if we had supplement from the county, that would be the first option, of course, to get that. 'Cause I definitely don't want to go up on anything, but it wouldn't affect the residents. It would just affect people from outside of.
Right.
And to piggyback on what Councilman Gaylor was asking about, I guess a hardship. With that, would that also apply to non-resident or just resident for the hardship?
That would be something for you all to decide if we were to go down that route of resident, non-resident fee. Currently, because we do just charge the one fee
Right.
for anybody, you know, whether someone lives in Pikeville and want to participate in our youth soccer program, or someone lives, you know, on Ash Street and wants to participate in our youth soccer program. I listen to everybody.
So anyone that comes to you now and says, we've got a hardship, irregardless of what their address is, you consult them?
Yes, yes.
Well, if the county will not do it, I mean, I think we need to use a set fee, like you said, make it $60 or $65, and you get a $45 discount for being.
Well, the manager, myself, and
Or $20 discount, I guess.
Meeting with the
I'm
county
sorry.
on Wednesday morning, not for this purpose, of course, but we will have a face-to-face meeting with them. And myself, speaking for myself, Mr. Allen, I think we could broach the subject with them at that time.
Yes, sir.
And ask them to give us a response not later than the next meeting.
And some of the things to consider would be use of these facilities. You know, the golf course, there may be more availability for play, so you might not want to charge that much more. But Bryan Multi-Sport Complex, it's very hard to get a spot to get out there and use the fields right now. There's so many people, so maybe you charge a little bit more. But I get it that some people can't pay, and we got to figure out a way to do that right too.
And by the way, I myself and Councilwoman Matthews were out at the sports complex last weekend, and afterwards I spoke to two of the attendants out there, and we talked about the use of the field and so forth and the condition. And so I learned that especially the turf fields are taking quite a beating because they're the ones that's most desirous to play on. And I have a little bit of personal experience of playing on a turf field, and when it was installed, not a soccer field, but a softball field. And I know they're very expensive, and we're seeing wear and tear already. I'm using the word tear, but wear certainly, of that field. And not only for scheduled teams coming in there, but for walk-in type use. So we have two issues there. One is sort of controlling the use, but also looking at the future cost of maintenance and replacement.
Yeah, and I'll also add, not to overload you all with information, but I'll just go back to say that, again, I'm giving you all a snapshot using youth programs, in particular youth soccer. When I check with other Parks Recreation departments, it's not one thing across the board. So, you know, with one department, they may charge different fees for youth sports, but for adult sports, it's just one fee. They may charge different fees for youth sports, different fees for programs, but for the pool, it's one fee, or for the golf course, it's one fee. So that's why I said I'm just sharing this information with you all. You just kind of soak it in tonight and be thinking about it.
So, is everyone willing for the manager and myself to present this discussion to the county on Wednesday when we meet, and ask for them to respond back to us before, not later than the day before the next scheduled council meeting?
Well, they don't meet until after we meet, so they won't meet again until Tuesday after
Well,
our
that's a good
next
point.
meeting.
That's a good point. Well, at least we'll have if we want to move it up beyond that date,
We might be able to
fine.
get a response before our next council meeting.
Yeah, so we'll ask for a response.
Might not be the response.
You might not, yeah, well, I mean,
Is everyone Okay with that?
That's fine.
At least let's try.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and even when I was referencing like the June 17th meeting in 2002, when they made that decision, the change was effective July. It wasn't changed right now. It was,
Yeah.
they put some space in between. Mhm.
But they're doing their budget too, so
Mhm.
we need to move on this quickly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the new business is sponsorship of the Dillard Alumni Event. Councilwoman Jones, are you there?
Yes, sir. It is my understanding is Mr. Gary Packer. Is he in the audience?
No, ma'am.
He's
No.
not?
No, ma'am.
I
Okay.
believe he was going to come at the 7 o'clock meeting and speak.
Yes, and we wanted the council to kind of have a little understanding, because you guys are, many of you are more Dillard alumni experienced than I am, but they were asking for a sponsorship and funds to assist with the Dillard alumni, which is usually held in May. They wanted more of a sponsorship because they generate a lot of money within the city, hotels, foods. They pretty much pay for themselves, and so they were coming to the council. It's my understanding that he met with you, Mayor. You were the Mayor Pro Tem then, I guess.
Yes.
Mayor and City Manager about assisting with some funding. So that's why I put it on the agenda, because it was my understanding that he was going to be there to talk more to you about it. I know we brought it up a little bit, and Taj had some information about the things that they do. So
Yes, ma'am.
that's why I put it on the agenda.
And Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
just to follow up on what you said, I can recall the meeting very vividly in 2016, the year of my 20th anniversary, when I presented to the council at that time that we did not have our parade on Center Street, and our class felt bad actually that we couldn't have it. They had it that year through Lincoln Homes, I want to say, which all the years prior to that, they have had it on Center Street, as I'm sure everybody's known that we've done that. And at that time, I think that tourism and Councilmember Foster brought to the attention of how much money that it generated, as much as you just said yourself, how many millions of dollars that weekend brings to Wayne County. And don't quote me on this, but I think we were saying at one time, they were saying travel and tourism will kind of help with doing some type of welcome them in and give them the same,
Right.
feeling that Wings Over Wayne or any of these other big events that the city had. Because I think for years that they felt that they had not received the recognition or, the contributions that they had brought. So I do think it's imperative that we do set up some type of outreach, or at the least some type of tourism announcement. So I'm in full support of that.
Okay, and maybe we can, even if we don't, after he speaks, even if we don't, I don't know all the procedures, Ron, that has to go through it, and Mayor, but after he speaks to it, maybe we can get a better feel of exactly everything he wants. But I really think this is something that we need to work on and do for the community. I understand last year, like you said, Mayor Pro Tem, that it wasn't done on Center Street, and the reason for that is that there were a lot of older Dillard alumni residents that could not get out to Center Street, so they took it to them. But this year, from my understanding, they're wanting to do it on Center Street, and hopefully Mr. Packer can shed more light on it. But I did want to bring that to the council's attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comment? Okay, Councilwoman Jones, we'll wait to hear from the speaker that's supposedly coming up later this evening.
Okay. Thank you for listening, Councilman.
Thank you.
Women.
Thank you.
So we'll now move down to the consent agenda items. Remember, we're taking E and F off the consent agenda and moving them to over to items requiring individual action. Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir. Item D, please, planning.
Good evening, councilmen and women.
Good evening.
One second here. So tonight we have four final, council final action items to present before you tonight. Last time this was before the council was during the public hearing, middle of last month. Just going to kind of rebrief you on each one of these rezoning requests. If you have any questions, please let me know. So the first one, the applicant, Miss Angelita Morriso. Property is located on the east side of North William Street between Wilson Street and East US 70 Highway Service Road and within the corporate city limits. The applicant's requesting a change of zone from residential to general business for 2 private lots, which are of continuous frontage and under single ownership within the residential 6 zoning district. If approved, the owner will be required to recombine the lots into one for commercial development purposes, meeting the requirements of the general business zoning district. Existing use, one of the 2 private lots is currently vacant. The other lot is currently occupied by a single-family dwelling. The city's land use plan recommends high-density residential development for the property. Although the comprehensive land use plan recommends high-density residential development, the requested change of zone would be compatible with existing commercial zoning and other uses in proximity to the site. As you can see, just west of the property, we have general business conditional district zoning along William Street and along the service road, and just to the east of the property we have in pink the highway business zoning district. At the public hearing held March 21st, no one spoke in favor of or against the request. On March 28, 2022, Goldsboro Planning Commission recommended approval of the change of zone request from residential 6 to general business. Although the Planning Commission's recommendation is inconsistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan, the request would be compatible and therefore reasonable with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. So as you'll see, the recommendation is to find that the proposed zoning amendment inconsistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan. However, the request would be compatible and therefore reasonable with existing commercial zoning in use and uses in proximity to the site. Number 2, find the proposed zoning amendment would be in the public interest because the zoning would allow for uses that are compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding areas. And number 3, we'll be asking you to adopt an ordinance changing the zoning for the property from residential to general business. I'll just slip through some of these slides here. Here's the property as we speak, currently vacant. As you, of course, know that William Street has been going through a widening project, and we do foresee many of these undeveloped properties along William being developed for commercial uses once the project is complete. That is Z122. Moving on to Z222, Eastern Hill is the applicant. As you see here, the property is located on the south side of East Elm Street between Crawford and Bill within the corporate city limits. This applicant was requesting a change of zone from residential to general business for 3 private lots which are of continuous frontage and under single ownership within the residential zoning district. If approved, the owner will be required to recombine the lots into one for commercial development purposes, meeting the requirements of the general business zoning district. In addition, a variance will be required for one of the 3 lots consisting of an existing non-conforming commercial building. The existing use, 2 of the 3 lots fronting East Elm are vacant. The 3rd lot at the corner of East Elm and Crawford consists of an existing non-conforming 1-story brick veneer and concrete block commercial building of approximately 1,700 square feet. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends high-density residential development for the property. But however, although the CLUP recommends high-density residential development, the requested zone will be compatible with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. So again, if you'll see there to the west, you have properties that are commercially zoned and utilized for commercial development. And across the street, you'll see another commercial other commercial property zoned mixed use downtown development. And there are other residential, high-density residential areas there that are commercially zoned, as you see there with the current zoning map. Just to show you the picture of this property, at one time, this property in its time was a commercial use within the existing traditional neighborhood. The property owner is proceeding at his own risk to develop the property. As you can see, he's already made substantial improvements to the commercial building. There on your right, if approved, again, there will be a variance that will need to be requested. That building was built prior to the UDO being adopted. But the rest of the property with regards to the grass area to the left and around the rear of the property will need to be compliant with our parking lot regulations, our parking ordinance, and landscape ordinance in order to meet our development requirements here for the city of Goldsboro. Now, I do want to point out to you there is a typo here. On page 2 of this zoning request, the applicant's request is to rezone to general business. However, we felt like that the most appropriate use is that the property be rezoned to neighborhood business instead of general business. This serves as a transitional district between heavy commercial uses and residential uses, which will allow the applicant to do exactly what he wants to do, which is to develop the property for professional service-related businesses and office units. So again, we just believe that staff was recommending that a less intense commercial use, which would be neighborhood business going forward. But unfortunately, as you see in your agenda memo, everything that you see on the second page that says residential to general business, it needs to reflect neighborhood business. So again, the recommendation is to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and find that the proposed zoning amendment inconsistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan, however reasonable with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. Number 2, find the proposed zoning amendment would be in the public interest because the zoning would allow uses that are compatible with adjacent uses in the area, and adopt an order changing the zoning for the property from residential to neighborhood business. So that's number 2. Z233. I'm sorry, Z222. Thank you.
Mr. Towers.
Yes, sir.
Before you proceed to
Yes,
the
sir.
next slide,
Yes, sir.
what constitutes neighborhood business? Because I know in years past, the building across the street, which is the Masonic Lodge, the downstairs area was initially a hair salon and beauty shop, but it was said that it couldn't be used for, I think one time we had a tenant that wanted to use it as a place to sell clothes, for example.
All right.
So being that they're in close proximity, would it need to be reworded for the other property that they could, in other words, what I'm asking, what limitations would they have as far as a business? What would they not be able to do as far as neighborhood business? Would they be able to basically do any type of sales that any other outside of that area would be?
Possibly. Without having my UDO in front of me, I really can't tell you line for line what it would allow and wouldn't allow. But I can tell you, again, a short answer, just less intensive commercial uses, maybe like a beauty salon, a real estate office, an insurance office where there wouldn't be a whole lot of people on a daily basis.
Yes, sir.
It wouldn't be anything like a convenience store
Right.
or a tire retail auto repair and inspection service center, nothing of that nature.
Yes, sir.
But it would be of a lesser intense use. and a number of things, maybe photography studio or, again, any small business, one office, two office maybe.
Yes, sir.
With storage, but definitely something that, when you review our UDO, you'll definitely see there is not near as many uses that would be allowed like you would be in a general business zoning
Okay.
district. So, but I'll be glad to share that with you during our break if needed, before our 7 o'clock
Nice.
meeting. Okay.
It looks good. I mean,
It
it's
is. He's
enhanced.
really doing a good job and really taking a risk outside because, again, we didn't have anybody to oppose it. We had one person to, remember at the public hearing, to
Yes.
question just exactly
Yes.
what he wanted to
Right.
do. So, any other questions before we move on? Okay. Moving on to Z3-22. So,
Y'all want to continue to hear, because you're going to have to do it this evening at 7 o'clock for the items requiring individual action. Do you want to hear it twice?
No, you can.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. So, Z3-22.
If you could move
Yes, sir.
Z422.
Go on to
E and
Z4?
F were moved.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Items
very
requiring
good.
individual
We got a
action.
ball game to go to.
Yes,
now.
sir. Yes, sir. I understand. So Z422, KRP Investments LLC. All right. So this development is located on the east side of Wayne Memorial Drive between 4th and Gracie Place and located in the corporate city limits. Applicant is requesting a change of zone for a portion of the subject property, approximately 3 acres, from office and institutional, 1 to residential, 6 conditional zoning, limiting the use of the property to a 3-story multifamily development complex consisting of 63 units for individuals 55 years of age and older. Remaining acreage will be reserved for future development. Here's the current land use plan, office and institutional, which does permit for multifamily development. Current zoning, office and institutional. Here is a site plan I tried to provide. Didn't make it to the public hearing, but I've tried to put it here so that you could see coming off of East 4th Street to your left. There are some slight modifications to the site with regards to the road extending eastward to it. But as you see here, the road would actually separate the property into potentially 3 or more developed or undeveloped lots for development in the future. So property to the north and the south, again, are currently proposed as undeveloped. Moving forward, according to the city's UDO, the proposed development shall meet the multifamily design standards of the R6 zoning district. The land use plan recommends office and institutional development. Multifamily developments are permitted use in the office and institutional zoning district. Must meet the development requirements of the closest, most restrictive zoning district. According to the city's land use plan, higher residential densities are recommended and should be encouraged since city water and sewer are available to serve the property. So as you see here on that page, there's many requirements they had to meet regarding access, parking, open space and ownership, sidewalks, a lighting plan, engineering, landscaping, refuse. We have some building elevations, refuse collection, screening, and so staff findings were for this that higher residential densities are recommended according to the comprehensive land use plan and should be encouraged since city water and sewer are available to serve the property. City's land use plan recommends office and institutional development. Multifamily developments are permitted use in the commercially zoned districts such as general business, office and institutional, neighborhood business, shopping center, and highway business, and must meet the development requirements of the most restrictive residential zoning district. At the public hearing, March 21st, 2022, no one spoke in favor or against the proposal. So on Monday, March 28th, 2022, the Goldsboro Planning Commission recommended approval of the change of zone request for a portion of the subject property from office and institutional to residential conditional zoning district, limiting the use of the property to a 3-story multifamily development complex consisting of 63 units for individuals 55 years of age and older. So tonight, by motion, we advise you, you have the opportunity to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and find the proposed zoning amendment consistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan and reasonable and in the public best interest, because the proposed zoning would allow for infill and multifamily development, which is compatible with existing properties in the surrounding area. Find that water and sewer are available to serve the property, and that higher residential development should be encouraged and considered for the site, and adopt an ordinance changing the zoning for the property for a portion of the subject property from O&I to R6ZZ, limiting the use of the property to a multifamily development complex consisting of 63 units for individuals 55 years of age and older. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions? If not, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item I. Mr. Kroon.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening, sir.
Agenda item I is the inspection of bridges on the city street system. As you may recall, every city street, every bridge on a city street has to be inspected every 2 years. So with it being 2022, the time is upon us to do that. Staff has in the past found it to be most efficient to choose number 3 in the background information of how to do this, which is letting NCDOT's contractor do the work for us, and we just provide the 20% local match. That way we don't have to get involved in an RFQ process or anything like that. You'll also see in the background information the 6 bridges that we are responsible for, and that will be inspected at an approximate cost of $650 per structure. So with that, staff recommends the adoption of the resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign an agreement with NCDOT for the inspection of bridges on the municipal street system. Any questions?
Anyone have a question?
I got one, and it's because somewhat familiar with the area. The bridge going over Big Ditch at Retha Street. Is Retha Street have anything on it anymore?
I don't have a current traffic count, no sir.
Last time I went by there was nobody living on it, and there was no businesses on it. Only reason I know that I used to have to pick up a driver's ed student when I was teaching driver's ed there.
If you would like for staff to investigate maybe removing this area or removing Retha Street, we could certainly do that for you.
Yeah, I think we need to take a look at it. If it doesn't serve anybody, there's no reason to keep it open. I mean, we can just put a sign or a barrier.
It could also be an option for us to close that right away. Again, if I'm not terribly familiar with it, but that would be an option, and we can bring you some options for our city council to look at.
I mean, Retha Street's only a couple of blocks long.
Any other questions?
So do we want to remove this from the consent agenda
No.
for more information?
No, we can go ahead and do it, but in the future, we might be able to look at it and see.
Yeah, move forward with the current agenda item, but staff can take a look at that specific street in an ancillary capacity.
Mhm.
So before we made any investment in major repairs, I mean, this is $650 to do an inspection to find out, right?
That's correct.
Right.
And that 650 is an approximate amount. Really, it comes down to the square footage. So for instance, if it's a smaller bridge, then that amount is going to come down. Any other? All right, thank you. Item J. So if you recall from a couple of meetings ago, staff has brought you contracts for both the water and wastewater AIA's asset inventory and assessment programs and projects. This is somewhat of a culmination of those projects that are going to be done by not only us, but the other local government units in the county. The MRF is the merger regionalization feasibility study that will basically take a look at the water and wastewater systems for all of Wayne County. So any local government unit in Wayne County, and see what the options are for combining those together either as a whole or some subset of that. We are using CDM Smith, which is an engineering firm that is part of our on-call contract services. The amount is to not exceed $100,000, and that is from a grant monies through the Viable Utility Reserve Fund through DWI. So staff is recommending that City Council by motion adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional engineering services agreement with CDM Smith Incorporated pertaining to conducting an MRF study for an amount not to exceed $100,000. Any questions on that one?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thanks, Bob.
Hello, Mayor, council members. I'm here tonight about approval of purchase order for our computer replacement plan. City Council approved the expenditure to current fiscal year budget, and in December approved the financing to replace the city staff computers. General statute requires 143-129 requires bidding when estimated expenditure of public money is greater than $90,000 for apparatus, supplies, materials, or equipment, and further requires the governing body to award the contract. The statute allows the governing body to delegate authority to award contracts, reject bids, re-advertise bids on behalf of the unit to the manager or other employee. This council approved, authorized city manager to, and the Board of Finance Director, this authority on April 19th, 2021, in Resolution 2021-30. The procurement of IT equipment was done by state contract as allowed by law. As per internal memo dated April 19th, 2021, the city manager and finance director stipulate that the delegated authority limit is $250,000, and contracts over this amount shall be presented to city council for approval and award. Purchase order amount is $510,931.15 to Netcom Business Solutions Incorporated. It's recommended that council authorize the award of IT equipment to Netcom Business Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $510,931.15 as documented on purchase order P2200827.
Has this been run by the finance director?
Yes, everything has been ran through. She just can't, the manager and finance director can only approve up to $250,000. So we have to come and get you guys to do the approval of PO.
What I'm asking is the money available.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's budgeted.
Yeah, it was approved in the budget and the financing was approved in December. Any other questions?
Why are you going through a reseller?
It's our state contract for HP products comes through that company.
So this is primarily for HP. I got
Yeah.
you.
That's what that one covers. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
See, that closed the consent agenda items. Remember, we'll take items E and F and move them over to the items requiring individual action. Mr. Lawrence, do we have any closed session issues to talk about tonight?
I don't have any, no, sir.
Okay, so we don't have any closed session items. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn or recess.
You don't even have to have a
Okay.
motion, you can just recess until
Okay,
7 o'clock.
is there any further business we need to discuss? If not, we'll recess until 7 o'clock. Okay, at 7 o'clock on Monday, April 4th, the regular meeting for the Goldsboro City Council is called to order. At this time, Madam Clerk, would you, call the roll, please?
Mayor Ham,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Present.
Councilwoman Jones,
Councilwoman Jones, are you on?
I'm about to speak this little nigga up.
Councilwoman Jones,
Okay, so.
Councilman Broadway,
Here.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Okay.
Councilman Gaylor,
Present.
Councilman Aycock, Councilwoman Jones,
Councilwoman Jones, are you there?
Here,
state your name,
Okay.
please.
Hiawatha Jones here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're all here. At this time, would you stand, please, and join us in the invocation. Pastor Stanley Kelly from the Freedom Strip Baptist Church is going to come forward and lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, and we want to say that we love you. We thank you for your goodness, for your mercy that you have given to us. Thank you for our community here, our city, Goldsboro, and the resiliency, the testimony, the legacy that we have. I thank you that we're a place that even a lot of the folks that serve in the military here, the Air Force Base, when it comes time for them to retire, this is a place that they would love to come back to and enjoy to come back to live out the rest of their lives because of decisions in part that are made by this council. And so, Father, we thank you for our community and for its leaders and the decisions that are made here on a regular basis. We pray for those in leadership. We pray especially for our mayor this evening. God, would you give wisdom and direction, and would you continue to give us your blessings as we seek your face and want to pursue you in our lives. God, bless us indeed tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Next item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting and the work session meeting minutes of March 7, 2022. Also, the work session and regular meeting minutes of March 21, 22. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk? Call the
Mayor
roll.
Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Councilwoman Jones, yes.
Councilman Broadway,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved. This time we'll go into presentations. Our first presentation is by Ms. Caitlin Tinsley. She's going to give us a presentation on the home front room revival. And I'm familiar with this program. I'm familiar with Ms. Tinsley. I want to say that, was it 2019 or 2020?
2019, sir.
2019, Ms. Tinsley was selected as a Air Force Spouse of the Year for the whole Air Force. And I saw her speak up in D.C. This lady has an incredible story to tell, but let us hear from you.
Thank you so much, Mary Ann, for having me in council. I'd like to start off with a video that the 4th Fire Wing recently made about us in our studio. Oh, we can't hear it. Technical difficulty.
That's what happens when you don't pay your IT people enough.
IT is always the infrastructure of the program.
He's not getting any.
It's not gonna work. Okay, maybe I'll just narrate it as we play it. We can do it that way, if we wanted to start. Okay, so we'll just keep going. Okay, I'll just narrate it. So the Fourth Fire recently put a video up on us on their Facebook page. This is myself. I'm sharing a little bit about my story. I'm an Air Force veteran myself. I was the 2019 Air Force Spouse of the Year. And I started the programs at Home Front Room Revival back in 2016 based on my own military story. My husband and I came into the military with next to nothing. I came in with a backpack on, didn't have any furniture. And when he deployed, I started struggling with my own mental health challenges. It was during that time that I found refuge and an outlet through the creative arts. And I started picking up old furniture left over on the curb in between military moves and taking it back and upcycling it. And it pulled me into an outlet to better cope during that stressful time, as well as furnish my home when my husband was gone. So now in 2019, we moved on base at Seymour Johnson. We have a little under 2,000 square feet of community studio space where we throw different DIY social events, teaching life skills, connecting airmen and military families into the community, and by employing veteran and military spouses to run the programs. We empower them through their hobbies to facilitate teaching these life skills to others in our own community. And through that, it ends up facilitating a natural soft entry point into Air Force resources as well as resources in the community. We have amazing partnerships with Habitat for Humanity, Playdate of Goldsboro for free childcare for our volunteers and clients that we're working with, as well as through local different restaurants for our different events that we're having. So we have a couple different programs that we run. The pictures that you're seeing in the slideshow, you'll see different pieces going into the homes of service members and families. And this is our traditional Deck the Deployment program where we decorate holiday homes for those who are struggling during deployments or difficult integrations into new communities. We've been working on bringing lactation rooms into squadrons and have put 3 into units on base within the last year. And I wish you heard some of the testimonies, but well, if you want to catch the full video and what was going on with it, it is on Seymour Johnson's main Facebook page. Okay, so the process of our studio programs, our studio serves as a community bridge. It facilitates natural friendships, word of mouth marketing, what is going on within the local community, downtown Goldsboro. The best way to distribute information in today's society, or ever honestly, is word of mouth marketing. And we're able to throw that together through our studio programs. So individuals will come into the studio and they'll, life skills mentors are available. We'll teach them different things that they might be lacking or need to know more of. So for brand new airmen, that might be how to affordably furnish your home on a budget. Many people don't realize this, but there's a deficit within transitioning into new military communities for those airmen and families that come in that are brand new. There's not furniture provided in base housing. There is a food insecurity among many low-ranking military service members, and the national average for spouse employment is over 3 times the national average of what is in the civilian sector. With that, we end up servicing a lot of families that are on one income. Because we have a studio on base, we have individuals who literally walk from base housing to the studio as an outlet to get, to receive friendships and conversations, as well as to work on pieces if they were brought into some of our traditional programs. So the studio leads into our Creative Chaos series, which is an inclusive community of connections. We facilitate a safe space for airmen and service members to retreat into, as well as families. We have free childcare available through our outside partnerships. And it is a continuous group series facilitating friendships and support. Our Curb Alert is our main program where we learn to, we teach how to affordably furnish homes on a budget, which comes from my own story of not being able to do that and then picking up the furniture. So we pick up old furniture left on curbs in between military moves, take it back to our studio warehouse, and then teach upcycling to these service members and families that come in that are struggling through difficult times. It opens up conversations for more personalized support, and our entire program is activities-led support. So when you start doing things with your hands, oftentimes you start talking, and we very often find out that the families that are coming in for furniture are not coming in for furniture at all. They're struggling through other difficulties, and they would be considered at risk. And then we have our Holiday Deck the Deployment program. So our main program is all facilitated through this thing I call creative chaos. So in the military life, things can get kind of chaotic and a little crazy, but we turn chaos into the creative kind through coaching, healing activities of outreach and socializing. That is exactly what goes on through this program. If you look on Facebook, you might see some videos that look like it's something out of HGTV. And it's out of fabric remnants that are donated in from the local community that we pick up at Habitat, or partnerships that we're working with interior design firms that might donate extras in. But 90% of everything is upcycled, reused, and handcrafted by veterans and military spouses that find outlets through the creative arts. And everybody self-refers into our program. So we're not something that is voluntold. Everybody's reaching out directly to us to receive our support. This is our Curb Alert program. We have fun classes attached to it sometimes called Furniture Flips and Nacho Chips. We'll partner with bonfires, girls to do these big nacho chip dinners and put on music and have fun, or Furniture Flips and French toast sticks. All of our socials have food attached, because if people don't come in for they're either coming in for friends, connection to the community, they're need-based, so they're waiting to hang out until after the social events to figure out how they can best approach us for support, or they might be coming in because they're hungry, and we are able to help facilitate that all through these different events. This is our brand new pottery studio. I was really excited this year because we created a pottery studio. I might have skipped over this part because I'm going a little fast, but we have been under a state grant for last year through the State Military Affairs Committee of North Carolina, where we were able to put in a pottery studio as well as facilitator programs for the last year. Up until now, it has been extremely grassroots. It still is. The grant has run up, and we're struggling right now to keep things going. But through our pottery program, it's not your mama's pottery program. Everything that we do is just like facilitated through fun. So this is actually targeted towards wingmen and couples as proactive resilience to deeper issues that could exist within mental health challenges. If somebody breaks a piece, we're doing it all off of the art of wabi-sabi, which means in Japanese culture, the imperfect, embracing the imperfect. So we don't want you to come in and have to feel like you have to create an awesome piece of pottery. You can just make something and let your stress come out in it, and if it hits the kiln and it breaks or you don't like it, we encourage you to drop it and break it. And then we'll put those pieces back together just like we do in retelling a new story, as we often have to reconstruct in our own lives. And then our Deck the Deployment program, which this is a huge thing that we've done for, I think we hit 5 years this year. We had the cover of the Goldsboro News Argus on Christmas Eve. We average about 7 to 10 different military families during the month of December that we end up providing holiday home outreach. And what that looks like is the community coming together in the studio to create these handmade pieces alongside families that reach out to us for extra support, who might be going through tough deployments, or might be that brand new military family who just came in and does not have anything. We select them into the program, and then we surround them with community, and we create these awesome holiday home projects that are all created by hands and then go into their homes and bring them to life. So this is some of the stuff we've been up to for the last year. Like I said, we've been really lucky that we've been under this grant. We employ spouses and veterans. We've been able to put 13 military spouses on contract through this Military Affairs Committee grant, which was for $47,000 that we stretched into, no joke, a $500,000 program. We have had over 375 unique individuals attend programs, outreach, or support within the last year. And we've thrown over, 23 socials, added the pottery studio in. Now things are at the point where we're trying to figure out what's next because we are out of money. and our programs are something that is in very high demand. Where we are located is inside a new connection center that's the first of its kind on Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, where the food pantry for airmen and families who are in need of food is in the back, as well as we have the Airman's Attic, which is a free thrift store. So when we have our doors open, there are constantly individuals coming in to seek outreach or support from us, and many of them are really struggling, and we're their first line of contact. So our programs really help community integration. If you are familiar with military programs, you often hear the term like community integration is a big thing. When families come into the military, they often do not know that there's even a downtown available. Through our studio programs, we'll have flyers available to show the downtown events, and we'll be able to help link people into each other as well as local businesses and resources. So that is pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
I want to make a couple of points here. First of all, it's important to know, I invited Ms. Tinsley here because I'm familiar with her program. I've been out to see her site, and as I said, I heard her speak when she was nominated and was selected as the Air Force Spouse of the Year. That in itself is a big recognition of this lady's work here. The second point I want to make is, I hope you understood, her program is no way connected to the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, except that it resides on Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. And it provides services to the air people, women and men, and she does it without any federal grants, state grants, other than the North Carolina Military Affairs gave her a one-time grant. No city, no county grants. This woman is amazing. She has a small team of volunteers, 2 people?
No, there's a lot of volunteers.
Well, a lot of volunteers, but I mean, you got 2 sort of full-time
I do.
people there. And they connect with a lot of volunteers. They do a great job providing support to our military neighbors here. You've got 3 former military people sitting here, and we know what that means to the people who are in need. I commend you. I can't say enough about you. I wanted you to come here, expose to the public what you're doing. She's not here to ask for money, although you would accept it.
Oh, yes, we will.
But I wanted the public to know about this program. So if you got goods that you want to provide to her, you heard her speak to how they assemble and collect things. If you need a phone number, I'll give it to our clerk. I have her number, and you can call our clerk unless you want us to give you your number.
Oh, you can give my number away in the thing.
You want to give your number?
I can give you the studio line. We have a studio on-call phone.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hold on, let me think.
Put you on the spot.
Now you put me on the spot.
We'll get the phone number.
Yeah, let me get back on that one.
Okay, we'll get the phone number. If anyone wants to call and contribute something, please give her a call. Any council member have anything?
So you would accept a child's crib?
I'm sorry?
A child's crib? Baby crib,
So we exchanged some pieces due to our logistics situation right now because we're trying to navigate moving forward. We exchange items with Habitat for Humanity, and we work side by side with our partners. Cribs are kind of tricky because you have to watch how you upcycle them. So as far as furniture is concerned, we ask that individuals can send us a picture so we can make sure that we can best utilize it or exchange it with one of our community partners.
Thank you.
I commend you. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Super program.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Tinley.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next, we have some proclamations to read. So I'll start off with the Month of the Military Child proclamation.
And it's very apropos that we have this at this time, and I can tell you that after 24 years in the service and 18 moves, this woman is doing a lot for a lot of people. But so are the children. The children go into new schools, they go into new communities, and they really have to become resilient. So I'll start. Month of the Military Child Proclamation. Whereas thousands of brave Americans have demonstrated their courage and commitment to freedom by serving in our country's armed forces and active duty posts around the world. Whereas nearly 2 million children have at least one parent currently serving active military duty. Whereas Goldsboro, North Carolina is the home of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and the Wayne County public school system has approximately 2,000 military-connected students, approximately 13% of its student population who are children of active duty, reserve, retired, or veterans. And the United States Department of Defense celebrates the month of April as a month of military child, further highlighting the important role military children play in the armed forces community. And whereas the children of our service members are major contributors to the strength of their parents and make significant contributions to family, schools, our community, the state, and the nation, despite repeated and prolonged absences of one or both parents. And whereas parents serve in the military, their kids serve too. And it is fitting for our city to pay tribute to military children for their commitment, their struggles, and their unconditional support of our troops. Therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do proclaim April 2022 as a month of military child. And April 8th is a Purple Up Day for Wayne County Public Schools. We encourage all school personnel and City of Goldsboro residents to recognize the contributions of our military families and to celebrate the spirit of military children across our city and nation by wearing purple on April the 8th as an outward symbol of appreciation for our youngest heroes. I herefore set my hand and fix the seal of the City of Goldsboro this 4th day of April, 2020.
Thank you.
Is anyone here to accept that? If not, nobody's here.
Next, we have another proclamation, and this is the Reentry Month proclamation, and Councilwoman Matthews will read it.
Reentry Month proclamation. Whereas 70 million Americans have a criminal record that creates significant barriers to employment, economic stability, and successful reentry into society. And whereas over 640,000 people are released from federal and state prisons each year. And whereas promoting the rehabilitation and reintegration of individuals into society, the future, is an important goal for all communities. And whereas policies that limit a second chance are detrimental to opportunities related to employment with local governments, state governments, federal government, and private companies. And whereas engaging the private sector and honoring champions of change are an important tool, along with proper education in reducing recidivism. And whereas the City of Goldsboro continues to collaborate with the Wayne County Reentry Council, Wayne Community College, local industry, and all units of government to promote reentry efforts for motivated individuals to compete for jobs, attain stable housing, support their families, and contribute to their communities. Now, therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor of the City of Goldsboro, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Reentry Month in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and encourage residents to observe this month and recognize the efforts of those who work to improve rehabilitation and reintegration of formerly incarcerated individuals. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and affix the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this the 4th day of April, 2022. We do have a member of the Wayne County Reentry Council here, and also one of our community partners, Ms. Renita Dawson from Wayne Community College. So I would like to present this to her on behalf of the Wayne County Reentry Council.
Ms. Dawson, do you have anything you want to say? Please.
Thank you, Mayor Ham. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. Just want to say thank you so much for this proclamation, and we want to honor the work that individuals are doing to help those that are coming back into our society be productive citizens. And so Wayne Community College is certainly a part of educating and training those individuals, and we are here to do everything we can to help any individual that is trying to re-enter into the society.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great job y'all do.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll move into the public comment period. And I see there's a lot of people here tonight, so I guess we got a lot of speakers. What I would like to remind the speakers is that you'll have 3 minutes to speak. I'm going to try to hold you to that, so there will be a clock on either one of these TV screens here. You keep your eye on it. Please work with us and try to limit your comments to three minutes, because I'm going to hit the gavel at 3 minutes. First speaker, come forward. State your name, sir, when you get to the podium.
You know who I am.
Well, the public doesn't necessarily know who
I'm
you
the
are.
pest that comes every week. My name is Willie Baptiste. I live at 1403 East Elm Street. Beautiful community. I'm here to reiterate over the past couple of months that I've been here, you know, since this is the quarterly, I always do quarterly success rates. I have submitted 4 problems. We have no solution on any of the 4 problems. 2 of them are very easy, Mayor. And they had to do with the traffic lights I spoke of when I originally came here. There are some traffic lights out there that are crooked. Now, people with 20/20 vision might not think of this as a problem, but us senior citizens, we need to see the lights. A couple of the lights in our city have trees around it. Now, when I brought the problem up, it was right at fall, so when the tree limbs, you know, leaves left, it looked like everything was all right. But now the trees are back, and all we need is somebody, whoever's job it is, to go around and trim it down, cut it down so that it's clear vision for people like me who need to see those traffic lights. There have been many accidents as a result of people speeding, so you know what the problem is. So my rating is good. I talked to Kenny Thompson before the meeting, and he reassured me that the problem we had with the house at 1402 East Lemon Street, or whatever street, whether it's Lemon Street, that there is a work in action. So, you know, I'm still want to stress that there is a problem. You know, it need to come down as soon as possible, and you know, legally possible. As City Planner reminded me, there's a legal process in it that has to be done. So I still want to keep it in your ears. Lastly, I have reached out to OB about my appointment to the golf committee. Now, I haven't had the chance to go golfing yet this year, but I still want to be on the committee, but he has not returned for my call. So please kind of pick him up. Oh, and Mayor, I want to thank you for what you did last week about calling Major Laren. Did I say that right? I know she's telling me she watches these our presentation, but I want to thank her for calling me, because she showed me that, you know, and explained to me that they did react to that problem, and they did come and get them and talk to the parents of those kids. And basically, no complaints today. Just want to say thank you.
All right, sir, thank you. Next speaker. There you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members.
Good evening.
My name is Gary Packer. I'm the national president of the Goldsboro Alumni Friends Incorporated. I thought I was going to be on the agenda for the day, but that's fine. I can do what I need to do in 3 minutes. I did meet with the mayor and with the city manager in October 21, and I requested some funds from the city of Goldsboro in the amount of $10,000. And the reason that I requested those funds is that our organization which will this year be celebrating our 67th year of homecomings, that we have made a significant footprint and a financial impact to the city of Goldsboro. In 2019, when Mayor Chuck Allen was here, we met with him in that year, and the city council did vote to give our organization some monies for that year. And at that time, Mayor Chuck said that going forward, that would be a continual, that we would continue to be able to give the organization money. Well, Mayor passed. We had COVID in 20 and in 21, which was the first time in the history of our organization that we were not able to have our homecoming festivities. And so what we're doing this year, we have a lot on schedule. And we're looking forward to a great outpouring of people coming back into the city of Goldsboro. Every year during our awards night, on that Thursday night, we invite the mayor, which the mayor was on our virtual homecoming, if you was able to see it last year, so he's very familiar with our organization. We also have one of the county commissioners generally come. And every time those individuals come before the people, they always express how much they appreciate our dollars in the city of Goldsboro and Wayne County. And so when I did the math, I looked at what we actually do when we come to town on our Memorial Day weekend. We have a 4-day event that goes from that Thursday until that Sunday. Every venue in Goldsboro and Wayne County is full. Every park is being utilized. Every hotel is full. Everywhere that you can go and eat is full. We use up all caterers. We also need to potentially reach out to Nahana and the Brightleaf because we cook more hot dogs and barbecue more pigs than anybody else during that time. And so what I did the math. And we also noticed that the Wings Over Wayne, they have a financial impact that they have. And the last time I checked, it was around $6 million. So using that formula, our financial impact to the city and county of Goldsboro is on the low side of 3.8 or $4 million every year that we have our presentation. And this year, we are expecting even a larger crowd because everybody has missed us for the previous 2 years. I've talked to several stores, and they missed our dollars. So we're hoping that the city will see us through and be willing to give us those finances that we would desire from you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Next speaker, Mr. Williford.
My name is Sherwood Williford, and I'll try to talk into the mic so you can hear me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for allowing me. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to announce an event that is going to be taking place, and I felt like you should be aware of it. I wrote a weekly column for the Goldsboro News-Argus for about 7 years. Some of you may have read that a little bit, by Sherwood Owl Williford. Anyway, over those last 20 years, I have rolled thousands of miles of microfilm just looking for historical information, and a lot of it appeared in those columns. But a few years ago, I came across a brief article, and I'm going to read the article to you. Title is simply, Colored Woman Attorney Comes Home for Oath. The first colored woman ever to granted a license to practice law in North Carolina was sworn in Wayne Superior Court today by Judge F.A. Daniels, who is now presiding over a court in Goldsboro. The woman, Ruth Whitehead Whaley, is a native of Goldsboro, a daughter of the late Professor C.A. Whitehead, a highly respected teacher of the city. She studied law in New York and is a practicing attorney in that state. Last winter, she was granted license in North Carolina by reciprocity, and she desired to be sworn in her hometown. Her office will remain in New York. Her only desire to be sworn in here, that's being her hometown. Attorney Hugh Dortch, at the request of the woman, introduced her to Judge Daniels, and to the court. News-Argus, May the 30th, 1933. This young woman probably studied under Reverend Dillard because that was the era and time when he was here as the head of all the school system for the black community. Sometimes later, I sent this same little article I just read to a young man who graduated with honors, Dillard High School, 1958, by the name of Ray Gavin. You may not know him. Someone sent him one of my columns years ago in New York, and we've been communicating ever since. Fine young man. Anyway, I sent him the column, and he wrote me back this little note. He said, Sherwood, this is truly remarkable. It said, I thank you for recovering and sharing it with me, speaking of the article. I knew about Ruth Whitehead's pioneering work for female black attorneys in New York, and I knew she was a North Carolinian, but I was shocked to learn that she was a Goldsboro native. I will be asking my siblings in Goldsboro whether they know the Whitehead family. I hope this bit of news will find its way into one of your columns, which it did. But the reason it went into one of my columns is Ray Gavin, he started researching more about her, sent me some wonderful information on her, and on October the 13th, 2019, I printed that article about her. The very next day, I got a call from a woman so excited. She said, Sherwood, is my time up? Holy mackerel. She said, Sherwood, this woman deserves a historical marker in Goldsboro. Bottom line is, one has been approved. I've got it approved to Raleigh. It's going to be put into the ground here in Goldsboro somewhere in mid-May. I'd tell you a lot more about it if I had time. Wonderful lady. You'll be proud of her.
Thank you, Mr. Wilford. Thank you.
Can he submit
got
the
a question?
information to the clerk?
You got a question?
Well, I don't have a question per se, but would you mind submitting the event details to our clerk so we can have it?
Let me tell you what I have. I made a copy of the article that I wrote in the newspaper for each of you on the council, and a more extended article for the mayor. He can read that and agree with me that she deserves a marker. So I'll give you a fully.
Any other comment, question?
Super. Thank you for your.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else to speak? I know somebody wants to speak. We've got a crowd of people here.
Are these just general comments, or are they going to be agenda items specific?
No, sir. If you want to speak about rezoning, that will not be a time that you can speak. If you want to speak now, if you've got an issue or something, come forward in the public.
Yeah, I definitely want to speak. How y'all this evening?
Good.
Good, how are you?
State your name, sir.
My name is Al Strickland. I reside at 1009 Corbett Street, and my comments are pretty much going to be the same as they were 2 weeks ago when I was before you about this rezoning, the Z322 rezoning. Like I said 2 weeks ago, we came to the council about 8 years ago and asked y'all to, the current landowner wanted to develop this land and needed to get the zoning changed, which we did, but we asked the city to put the single family home designation on this zoning. The city agreed with us then. We're asking you, in fact begging you, to please not take the single family home designation off of this zoning. I got several of my current neighbors and taxpaying citizens and property owners that this could affect with me, but I've got a petition with 30 names on it that are opposing that change. I'll present that to you. I gave it to the planning committee last week. I don't know if y'all seen it. I don't know what the process is, but again, there seemed to be everybody was isolating on our road, our little one-way street in and out, 390 feet. That's not our only concern. The biggest concern, one of the biggest concerns is, I know these people that are developing this land or want to develop it, I know they mean well, they're developers, that's what they do. I get all of that. All the stuff looks great, but like I said 2 weeks ago, if the city changes and takes that single family home designation off of this zoning, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, they can change their mind and do whatever they want to with that land, and we won't have any recourse. That single family home designation, we're a neighborhood of single families. That's what we are out there. And that single family home designation is our hedge of protection against somebody getting the land, getting the zoning changed, and then putting whatever they want to out there. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
We took that item off the consent agenda and put it on agenda. Something requires an individual vote. So we'll hear at that time.
Tonight?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Good afternoon, sir. Or good evening, I should say.
How you doing? I'm Mr. Battle, owner, operator of the Black Elks Lodge, 312, 314, 316 South James. I was here 2 weeks ago speaking on behalf of how the city would give away properties for $1 when they're requesting the citizens to give a 20% raise for utilities. I mean, if you're in need of funds, I mean, why not sell the properties? I was willing to buy the property for the full price. I'm concerned about the houses over here on Virginia Street between Ash and Mulberry, the whole even side over there. You want to give that to, I'm trying to think of the name of the organization, I can't think of it right now, but why not auction it off? Let them bid on it. The city needs money, there's plenty of funds right there. Or utilize it for something that's useful, that, you know, that the community could use. You know, I mean, you got a lot of homeless people around here. You know, I mean, I'm sure you'd be surprised of the skills that a lot of these homeless folks have. Put them in there, put them to work. All this that you requested, how you want it built, I'm sure they can do it. But that's my concerns. I mean, you always requesting for funds. You got plenty of funds. Anytime you can give something away for $1, you don't need no funds at all. And so my thing is, hey, what profits an organization? You know, what profits a government? You know, what even profits a man to gain the world, but yet loses his soul? That's my concern. Appreciate it.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Battle? Okay, thank you, sir. Next speaker. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Would it be out of order for me to have 10 more seconds?
Yes, sir, you've spoken already.
Can I?
I'm sorry, that's the policy.
So you had another speaker.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Trey Taylor, attorney with Warren, Carl, Walston, Taylor, and Smith here in Goldsboro. Offices at 117 Ormond Avenue. I'm here for the property owner, Land Branch Development, on the rezoning request that was just spoken about earlier for the 107 townhomes to change the zoning from single family conditional zoning to residential conditional zoning. I would like to say, I think it's inaccurate to say that if you change the zone that anything can be done with the property. That's just not an accurate statement. The development that would be approved would be a special use for 107 townhomes. Certainly nothing against single family homes, but sometimes everybody can't afford a single family home, and townhomes can be more affordable. Mount Olive Pickle, of course, is opening a facility nearby. This would provide a place for those people to live within an easy traveling distance for the workers, and it's going to have some good paying jobs there. Of course, this development would increase the tax base. It would allow people to pass down ownership instead of renting property for generational wealth. And of course, the city has a large number of protections for the neighbors, as you know. There's got to be a 15-foot landscape buffer. Lighting plans got to be submitted and approved. Any trash dumpsters have got to be screened. So there are a lot of protections there, and there'll be many more inspections and so forth that this property will have to meet. You have a 20% minimum open space requirement for this type of development. This development proposes 44% of the land will be open space development. And so we believe that this development will allow this land to be developed in the highest and best use. It's owned by Glenn Lancaster, who's here tonight, and his two brothers, natives of Wayne County. And they would like to be able to sell this property so that it can be developed and it'll be attractive
place to live and provide more housing, which is desperately needed in the city of Goldsboro. So we request your favorable consideration of this rezoning request.
Okay, sir. Any questions anyone has? All right, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? State your name, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jennifer Scott, and I represent RBV Investments. Those are the folks that are on your agenda. We were consent, but understand we've been removed. I don't want to be remiss and miss the opportunity to speak to you and introduce my client, and then also potentially answer any questions which we will remain for while you consider this agenda item. I know this is tough, and I know we all have a basketball game to get to, so I'm glad I'm capped at 3 minutes because I could probably go on all night about my particular client. But it's always tough to balance how to develop property when you've got adjoining owners who are frustrated by that purpose and that goal. I will say in response to Mr. Strickland's comments that from the single family designation that was given this property before, you know, things do change over time, and I think Mr. Taylor said it well. The property at this point just sort of screams for a multifamily use that's going to support the other things that are going on in Goldsboro. And I think it's our sort of job to figure that out as developers, and your job to review it as council members in light of what's in the best interest for your broader community. So we hope that you'll do that this evening. I will say that the rezoning alone is not, as you know, not the only thing that happens in the process of a project like this. It's kind of the gateway to what we're going to do. But you will have many opportunities. The planning staff and building inspections department will have opportunities to review our project as it goes along, and make sure that our plans, our access points, everything is reviewed and approved, coordinate with your other rules and regulations, and also in the best interest of your citizenry. So with this decision, I think you're planning for your future in a critical area that sort of begs for this housing type, and also really puts your water and sewer resources to good use. I can tell you I do this work sort of all over the state, especially in the eastern part of the state, and there are many communities that do not have the resources to be able to develop the housing and meet the housing needs that are demanded in their particular jurisdiction. So, you know, you're starting off on the right foot there. In this decision, if we are to be successful this evening, you should also know that you are more than tripling your tax base from the current designation. The property right now is in land use. The tax paid this past year was $229. We are talking about a $30 million project that was obviously going to bring way more to your tax base than the single family designation, and also provide more opportunities for families here to live and own property. You're going to hear some about connectivity, but I will grant you that presumably the planning director will let you know that there is an additional project proposed for an adjoining piece that's going to give us the cut through that we need to make this more accessible and provide the connection that you need, and also a diversity of housing in that area. So we look forward to entertaining your questions and comments when we get to that part. Thanks so much.
Anyone else desire to speak?
Good evening.
My name's Craig Daltrey. I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. Grew up 2 houses down from where me and my family live now. It's always been a nice, quiet neighborhood, tight-knit. Our concerns are just, as Mr. Strickland stated, what could happen to our little community. We're concerned about overcrowdedness, traffic. There's already a ton of traffic on our street. Deacon Jones dealerships, lots of test drives. And one of my biggest concerns is property values, how this will affect all of our home values. That's just something that is up in the air, you know. Depending on what they build, our homes could drop tremendously, and that affects a lot of hardworking people. So I just wanted to bring that in front of you guys.
Yes, sir.
That's about all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else to speak? If not, we'll close this session of public comment period, and we'll move to the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Consent agenda items D, G, I, J, and K are presented for council approval.
I have a motion to approve items D, G, and I,
J, and K.
and J and K. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
In discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Councilwoman Jones, yes.
Councilman Broadway,
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes. Okay, the council has approved the consent agenda items. We'll move to items requiring individual action, and we moved EZ 222 rezoning to items requiring individual action. Council, do you have any comments? Question? You want to
I think we need to present the information. So-
Yeah. Come on up, we present the information.
So Mayor, based on your direction, would you like to go through Z222 and Z3 again for the council?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Tallon?
Yes, sir.
If we could just do those one at a time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Z222 applicant Eastern Hill Incorporated. This property is located on the south side of Elm Street between Crawford Street and Bill Street and within the corporate city limits. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from residential R6 to general business for 3 private lots which are of continuous frontage and under single ownership within the residential zoning district, R6 zoning district. If approved, the owner will be required to combine the lots into one for commercial development purposes, meeting the requirements of the general business zoning district. In addition, a variance will be required for one of the 3 lots consisting of an existing non-conforming commercial building which does not meet the required front setback of 20 feet along Elm Street, Crawford, and Hughes Street. Two of the 3 lots fronting East Elm Street are vacant. The 3rd lot at the corner of East Elm Street and Crawford Street consists of an existing non-conforming 1-story brick veneer and concrete block commercial building of approximately 1,782 square feet. The city's land use plan recommends high-density residential for the property. Although the CLUP recommends high-density residential development, the requested change of zone would be compatible with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. I'm sorry, we got a little ahead of ourselves. There's a comprehensive land use plan, the zoning plan, as we looked at earlier. However, staff is recommending a more restrictive zone such as neighborhood business to serve as a more appropriate transitional buffer between commercial and residential development. The applicant intends to rehabilitate the existing commercial building for office use. Business and professional services are preferred. City water and sewer are available to serve the property. If such a property is not located in a special flood hazard area, grading and drainage plans may be required. At the public hearing on March 21st, 2022, no one spoke in favor or against the request. On Monday, March 28, 2022, the Goldsboro Planning Commission recommended approval of the change of zone request from residential R6 to neighborhood business. Although the Planning Commission's recommendation is inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan, the request would be compatible and therefore reasonable with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. So the recommendation is by motion, accept the recommendation of the planning commission, and number one, find the proposed zoning amendment inconsistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan. However, the request would be compatible and therefore reasonable with the existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. Number two, find the proposed zoning amendment would be in the public interest because the zoning would allow uses that are compatible with adjacent properties within the surrounding areas. And number three, adopting an ordinance changing the zoning for the property from residential 6 to neighborhood business. Any further questions of planning staff?
Council, you heard the presentation. You heard from homeowners, residents. Do we have any other comments, questions, whatever? If not, I entertain a motion to adopt the Planning Commissioner's recommendation of approval of Z222.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand.
Roll call.
Excuse me, roll call. Roll call.
Mayor Ham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Payette,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes. Councilwoman Jones.
thank you, Councilman Broadway,
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews,
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor,
Yes.
Councilman Aycock.
Yes.
Motion's made and approved. The motion carries.
The next change of zone request is by Z322 RBV Investments LLC. This property is located on the north side of US 70 Highway between Corbett Street and North Oak Forest Drive and located in the Corbett city limits. The applicant is requesting a change of zone for the subject property from residential single-family conditional zoning R9 SFCZ to residential conditional zoning R9 CZ, limiting the property to a townhome development complex consisting of 107 units. According to the city's UDO, the proposed development shall meet the multifamily and townhome development design standards of the R9 zoning district. There's a comprehensive land use plan showing the majority of the property is in a commercial district with a portion in the industrial. On November the 4th, 2013, the Goldsboro City Council concurred with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopted an ordinance changing the zoning for the property from residential R12 single family to residential 9 single family conditional zoning and approved a conceptual plan for a total of 42 single family lots. The site was never developed. Existing use: currently the property consists of agricultural farmland. The city's land use recommends commercial and industrial development, as you just previously saw. The submitted preliminary site plan indicates a total of 107 townhome units. Access to the site will be directly from Corbett Street, terminus off of McLean Street. The applicant intends to extend Corbett Street and construct 2 new roads built to city standards for formal dedication and acceptance into the city's street network. Parking for the site requires 2 spaces per unit for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and 3 spaces for units over 3 bedrooms. Staff is working with the developer to ensure compliance with the city's parking ordinance. A common area equal to 20% of the entire development shall be preserved, maintained, and improved by the development owner for active recreational use by residents of the development. The site plan shows open space equal to 44% of the developed areas. In addition, the required open space shall be held in common ownership for the perpetual benefit of residents of the development by a legally established corporation, association, or other legal entity, or be dedicated to the city of Goldsboro as a public park. External sidewalks are required and are shown for the proposed development utilizing handicap accessible slopes and ramps. Additional sidewalks will be required along interconnecting streets for future development purposes. A commercial lighting plan has not been submitted. Since the subject property is located adjacent to residentially zoned and developed properties, the developer will be required to submit a lighting plan in compliance with the city's lighting ordinance. Interconnectivity has been shown for the site off of Corbett Street and Seymour Village Drive. So the subject property is located within the city limits of Goldsboro. As such, city water and sewer are available to serve the property. The property is not located in a special flood hazard area. City engineering will require approval of stormwater calculation and drainage plans prior to issuance of any building permits. Street trees have been provided along the proposed townhome street network. A type B 15-foot wide landscape buffer is required along all property lines and has been shown for the development. All utilities shall be underground. Commercial dumpsters will be utilized for garbage collection and will be appropriately screened from off-site views in accordance with city standards. We have some building elevations for view. Let's see if we have any more here. I apologize for the smallness of the floor plan at the upper right and bottom right as well. So staff's findings: according to the city's land use plan, higher residential densities are recommended and should be encouraged since water and sewer are available to serve the property. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends commercial development for the property. Multifamily developments are a permitted use in commercially zoned districts such as general business, office and institutional, neighborhood business, shopping center, and highway business, and must meet the development requirements of the closest, most restrictive residential zoning district. At the public hearing held March 21st, 2022, one person, Mr. Al Strickland, spoke against the proposal and requested City Council not to change the existing residential zone from single-family residential use. Again, as you heard, there was a petition that has also been submitted for opposition from nearby residents of the neighborhood. On Monday, March 28, 2022, the Goldsboro Planning Commission recommended approval of the change of zone request from residential single-family conditional zoning R9 SFCZ to residential conditional zoning R9 CZ, limiting the property to a townhome development complex consisting of 107 units. So the recommendation is before you tonight, that by motion you accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and, number one, find the proposed zoning amendment consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan. Number two, find the proposed zoning amendment reasonable and in the public interest because the proposed zoning would allow for infill and townhome multifamily development which are compatible with existing properties in the surrounding area. Find that city water and sewer are available to serve the property and that higher residential densities should be encouraged and considered for the site. And number four, adopt an ordinance changing the zoning for the property from residential single-family conditional zoning R9 SFCZ to residential conditional zoning R9 CZ, limiting the property to a townhome development complex consisting of 107 units.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lawrence, can you speak to the signatures that was presented?
A petition can typically be handed up, but that would have to be during the public hearing itself. You've already had the public hearing, so that's the time for evidence to be received. At this point in time, there'd be evidence that wasn't received at the public hearing. Again, that is something that could have been done at the public hearing itself, but not tonight.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment. All right. They aren't included in my district. The only thing that separates where they live in my district is a train track. So we are neighbors. And in the 80s, every bit of my district was annexed into the city of Goldsboro. Every single bit of it, against the wishes of the homeowners. If you'd have took a vote, 90% would have voted against it. I'm always going to vote with the homeowners, period. You know, we need development. I know we need development. But the homeowners are opposed to it. And they got a chance to tell you they don't want it. And when they bought their homes years ago, you know, they had no idea what was going to come in front of them. And I think we ought to give some consideration to those people who have lived there for many years. I mean, a lot of those homes were built probably in the late 50s, early 60s. And, you know, they've lived there. And I don't want to mess up their neighborhood. It's a tight-knit neighborhood, as he said, and I think we owe it to them to protect them. So I make a motion we deny the zoning request.
I have a motion to deny. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion fails. Is there a motion to adopt the planning commissioner's recommendation for approval of the proposed rezoning?
Mayor, if I could ask one question of our planning director, Kenny, if that's
Sure.
appropriate. So let's talk through one of the concerns that's been expressed this evening. If this is approved and it's just simply rezoned into still residential conditional, and the next Great Recession happens tomorrow and this developer pulls out, for someone else to come in and do, say, apartments or anything else, what's their process look like?
So if the process changes in any way, shape, or form from the 107 townhome developments, it has to go back through the same proceeding. So it's a legislative process, rezoning request, and again, that request has to come back for public hearing, debated by the planning commission, and a recommendation made to council for approval for any change of use in the future of that property from a 107 townhome development complex.
And Mr. Mayor, if I might, one additional, do we have any idea what the anticipated value of these would be, what the anticipated sales value or marketability of these would be?
I don't have any of that information readily available, no, sir.
Real quick, Mr. Towson, I don't know if this is the same question that you just asked, but I'm going to ask it differently. Mr. Strickland brought up a really valid concern about, you know, this is the proposal right now, but in 2, 3, 6 years it decides to change. Can you speak to that, and where it may not change the neighbor's mind, can you put some ease on that if that's not the case? If they can't just come in and say, we want to do something different tomorrow or a couple years down the road. Is that possible?
I don't think that I can speak to that. Again, if the property right now is rezoned, it's rezoned for that use and that use only, for as much as I know, till perpetuity. If there's a change in the nature and scope, the design, because this site plan is associated with the rezoning request, so any parts of that design, there can be some minor deviations from it, but if there's any significant deviations, even in the design or the number of units, that can trigger a change in the entire request where it has to come back before the board for public hearing and planning commission debate, final council action.
Did I answer your question?
Hi, City Councilwoman Jones. I would really like to be sensitive to the homeowners because they have been there. Is there any way that we can possibly talk to more than 1 or 2 homeowners to just see how they actually feel about this before we decide?
Councilwoman Jones, this is Ron Lawrence. They already had the public hearing on the matter, and as a result, the testimony or evidence has already been received. So at this point, you cannot do that.
Okay. I heard I heard 2. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
One more comment.
I just have,
When the planning commission met last Monday, the vote was 3-2, so it was in no way unanimous. You know, one person made the difference, and I just want y'all to remember that.
I just want to say one thing. I think and I listen to everybody, everyone's testimony. I think Mr. Strickland said he was unsure what the future would hold. And I think we clarified that. The other young man said it was a neighborhood, a close-knit community, and things of that nature. But I always also listen to what the young lady, when she brought it to us, of how it would enhance in some form the neighborhood. It would bring the tax value up from $239, I think you said, for land use, to what would then be a greater amount. I had and Mr. Towson can attest to this, my house was built in 1926. And at that time, I'm quite sure I couldn't have been a resident in that community. By way of the laws of Wayne County prohibited a black male from owning property in that community. My house is on Mulberry Street. Those documents are in the Register of Deeds office. I make that point to say this, without development, there is no growth. Even though there are people that want their neighborhoods to stay the same, growth is going to make us come together in a sense. Initially, we're not going to stand for those things, but 50 years ago or 70 years ago on the document of Wayne County, I myself would not have been able to buy the house that I currently live in because of people that probably would have said, we don't want this type of person in my community. But thank God for growth and development, and I just wanted to say that. Not to slight the homeowners in that community, but the law of the land specifically stated that a Negro could not reside in the house that I currently own. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comment? Mr. Gaylor, did you make the motion?
I have not, Mayor. I move that we follow Planning Council recommendation and approve the zoning request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval. Is there a second?
I second.
Your second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Ham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Broadway?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews?
Yes.
Councilman Gaylor?
Yes.
Councilman Aycock?
No.
Motion is passed. That concludes the items requiring individual actions. This time we'll have the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I would like to thank Mr. Roe O'Donnell, who was the temporary assistant city manager for 2 months. He helped greatly with staff leadership and project management. He's off to Ireland now, so thank you, Roe, for that. Also like to recognize Mr. Scott Satterfield, who will be the next Wayne County Chamber of Commerce president. Scott did a great job for us here, and I'm sure he's going to do great things with the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. And lastly, we will make the fountain purple for Purple Up Day, and thank our military and their families for what they do for us every day. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. We have one more proclamation to read, so Mr. Gaylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Pardon. Whereas the city of Goldsboro values the importance of children's positive experiences in shaping their learning and developing during their earliest years, and whereas the city of Goldsboro supports high-quality, accessible, and affordable child care and early childhood education, and whereas quality education from the start and health of the child from birth are vital to building a strong community, state, and country, and whereas Partnership for Children of Wayne County and North Carolina Partnership for Children, along with North Carolina Association for Education of Young Children, North Carolina Child Care Coalition, and all child care centers and preschools in the city of Goldsboro join together in recognizing and supporting the people and programs that are committed to providing high-quality early childhood education and services. And whereas the Week of the Young Child is a time to thank and recognize our early childhood educators that care for and educate our youngest children, and whereas the Week of the Young Child is a time to recognize that children's opportunities are our responsibilities and to commit ourselves to ensuring that every child experiences the type of environment that will provide their early learning. Now therefore I, David Ham, Mayor of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 10th through the 16th of 2022 as Week of the Young Child, and commend its observance in all citizens of the City of Goldsboro. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this the 4th day of April 2022.
Thank you, sir. This time we'll offer any comments that council members may have. I'm going to start with you, Councilwoman Jones. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Broadway?
No comments, sir.
Mr. Pollock?
I'll be quick. I just want to say I feel that it's imperative that we support our Goldsboro Dealer alumni with all that they contribute to our city, not only economically, but by giving support and scholarship to students in the Wayne County school system. Their consistent efforts should not go unnoticed, and I am certain that we will benefit tremendously by sharing our support to one of the largest alumni organizations in North America. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Matthews?
No comment, thank you.
Mr. Gaylor?
Mayor, if I may, tonight we had another tough conversation, but it was a very healthy conversation with the citizens of that particular community. And what I think is important for us to remember about this is that is a specific condition based on a specific site plan, on a specific developer, and a specific project. And if something has to change, we're going to have the opportunity and the responsibility of protecting that neighborhood. But this is, as we heard tonight, a $30 million investment that is going to see these property values increase and increase the value of that neighborhood, and hopefully change it only for the positive, if at all. And I would also emphasize that our parks and recreation are a huge part of what makes this community so strong and so desirable. And when the time comes for us to look at that site plan and figure out what happens with that open area in the middle that could potentially be handed over to the city, I would really like for the council to give heavy consideration to adding that to our asset sheet for Parks and Rec, making sure that we always have a firm hand in that community, make sure we're there to support them. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're next.
You know, when I brought up we were annexed in the 80s, that was for tax dollars. It was nothing to help the residents of those subdivisions. And I think this was done tonight for tax dollars. And for that, I do not feel comfortable. That's it.
I don't have any comments. I want to thank the council for your work tonight on these items. There's a lot of things that we did tonight that's going to impact Goldsboro and a lot of people. So I appreciate your time and your thought. If there's nothing else, the meeting's adjourned.